What if I told you that the most effective leaders, well, they aren't the ones you always see in the spotlight. Today, we're going to dive into the work of David Rozek and explore a really powerful, totally different approach, quiet leadership. It's all about how to get real results without all the noise and fanfare.
And this quote? This is the heart of the challenge Rozek throws down. What he's saying is that the stuff we often think is leadership, the big speeches, the flashy presentations, being the loudest voice in the room, a lot of the time, it's just a show. It's all performance, not actual progress.
So Rozek basically lays out two completely different ways to lead. On one side, you've got the loud leader. They're all about being visible, driving things from the top down, lots of intensity. But then there's the quiet leader. This person is way more strategic, consistent, and they actually prefer leading from behind the scenes, empowering the team instead of just commanding that.
Okay, so what's the big deal? What's really wrong with this whole performance art style of leadership? Well, as it turns out, it's actually causing some pretty serious damage in a lot of companies today.
I mean, here's the reality check for so many workplaces. Your team is just plain tired. They've got whiplash from one urgent pivot after another. They've seen so many big initiatives fizzle out that they've developed what Rozek calls antibodies against change. It's like their immune system now automatically fights off any new idea because they've been burned so many times before.
And look, Rozek learned this the hard way, and he's not afraid to admit it. He tells the story about how he tried that classic performative approach, walked in with big ideas, grand presentations, and it just fell completely flat. All he got back were some polite nods and a room full of glazed-over eyes. No real buy-in, no real momentum. It was a huge sign that the whole approach was just broken.
So, if being the performer doesn't work, what's the alternative? Well, it all kicks off with a fundamental shift in your mindset. You've got to stop being a performer and start being a strategist.
And what's so cool about this is how practical it is. Rozek suggests this daily ritual, a clarity ritual, built around three simple but really powerful questions. See, it's not about your big agenda. It's about asking, how can I help us succeed? What are we not seeing? And maybe most importantly, what's a small, tangible win we can nail down today to build some momentum?
Now, any leader out there has felt this tension, what he calls the pivot paradox. If you push for change too hard and too fast, you burn out your people and you break your processes. But if you move too slow, you get left behind by the market. It's a tough spot to be in. So how do you possibly navigate that?
Rozek's solution is this brilliant concept he calls urgent patience. It is all about finding that perfect sweet spot. You've got to act with the urgency the situation demands for sure, but you do it with the patience to make sure your team can actually keep up, that they get the vision, and that they come along with you because they want to. It's this beautiful balance of speed and humanity.
All right, so you've got this mindset of urgent patience. But how does a quiet leader actually, do it? How do you make change happen on the ground? Let's get into the actual mechanics. One of the key tactics Rozek talks about is something he calls change seeding. Now, hold on. This isn't about being manipulative. It's just about understanding how people work. Instead of forcing a new idea on your team from on high, you just plant it. You water it a little bit here and there, and you let it grow organically until the team truly owns it.
Let me give you a perfect example from Rozek's own career. He saw a huge problem. His car dealership's online presence was, well, pretty terrible. The loud leader approach would have been to call a big mandatory meeting and announce a brand new top-down strategy.
But that's not what he did. Instead, he started seeding the change. He began casually sharing little success stories from other dealerships in other markets. He'd just drop things into conversation like, hey, check this out. Look what these guys over here figured out. He never once said, we have to do this. He just planted the seeds of what was possible.
And the result? It was amazing. Before long, the general manager comes to him all excited about his great new idea to totally revamp their social media. It was the exact idea Rozek had been seeding all along. But because the GM now saw it as his own idea, he was 100% invested in making it a massive success. Now that is quiet leadership in action. At the end of the day, all of this comes down to one single thing: trust. Rozek says that trust is the absolute currency of real leadership. If you don't have it, your fancy title doesn't mean a thing. And you don't build that trust in big, showy meetings. You build it in all the quiet, consistent, supportive moments in between.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most profound piece of this whole puzzle: learning to play the long game.
this completely redefines what courage even means for a leader. It's not the courage to stand up on a stage and be seen. It's the courage to be effective behind the scenes. It's about having the confidence to influence things for the better and then letting other people take the credit and shine.
And this leads to a total reversal of what you're even trying to do. A loud leader is often trying to make themselves indispensable, the hero of every single story. But a quiet leader, their whole goal is to make other people successful, to build a team that's so strong, so capable, that it can thrive even without them.
So, when you're playing this long game, your priorities just shift. It becomes about relationships, not mandates. It's about being consistent day in and day out, not just showing intense bursts of energy. It's about real progress over office politics. And it is always, always about substance over spectacle.
This final thought from Rozek it sums the whole thing up so perfectly. A leader's job isn't to be seen, to demand the spotlight. It's to see others, to clearly see their potential, their struggles, their strengths, and then to do everything you can to help them succeed.
And that really just leaves us with one question to think about. In our own work, on our own teams, are we truly leading, or are we just putting on a performance?